Hello, my name is Reverend Dr. May Elise Cannon. Today is Thursday, May 16th. It's day 223. Greetings from Amman, Jordan. Today I met with the American Friends Service Committee. Staff members here, they do such incredible work. AFSC is a member of Churches for Middle East Peace in the United States. They have staff all over the Middle East. They have staff in Gaza. I've heard stories about staff workers who literally spend the morning scavenging for food, and then in the afternoon they distribute food. Or Joyce Edge-Looney, the head of AFSC in the US, has told the story about how a staff member might bury one of their family members in the morning and then go to work in the afternoon. And that's the way that the people of Gaza are. Their strength, their determination, their fortitude. I'm in regular touch with the head of one of the major aid agencies in Gaza, and I have been often early on, every single day, and now once or twice a week. And I send them prayers daily, always naming each of their family members by name. And I pray for them every day and reach out to them, and I'm always eager to hear from them. And I hope they're safe. I was debating whether or not I should read to you the prayer that I sent them today. I have permission to share from our communications because they've asked me to tell you what their lives are like. And I just want you to know that the people in Gaza are so hospitable, and that civilians there should not pay for the crimes of Hamas. And so I'll give you updates from what's happened in the last 24 hours. Attacks on Rafah are continuing. Netanyahu has said that Israel will do what is required despite disagreements with the United States. He, in an interview with CNBC, acknowledged the disagreement with Washington over the military offensive, but has stood firm that the operation is necessary. The EU has urged Israel to end its operation on Rafah immediately and has said that it is disrupting the distribution of humanitarian aid, and it's leading to more internal displacement, famine, and suffering. Israel's military confirmed that it did pull some troops out of Zaytun in North Gaza, but it says that as it continues to operate there, it has intensified its operations in the Jabalia refugee camp. We've been talking about that the last several days, as well as carrying out what it described as targeted operations in specific areas of eastern Rafah. Israel and Egypt are now embroiled in what's being called a diplomatic row over the Rafah border crossing after Israel's takeover of the Gaza side, amid warnings that Cairo may be planning to downgrade their relations. The International Rescue Committee has said that it is facing significant disruptions to its humanitarian operations because of what's happening in Rafah. They said that the closure and blockade on the entry of humanitarian workers and aid, including fuel, is critically hindering the ability to deliver essential services and aid to those who have desperate need. In the north, 5 Israeli soldiers were killed by friendly fire. There's been intense fighting in the north. It's resumed more than 7 months now into the war. Troops were killed on Wednesday at 7 p.m. in the Jabalia refugee camp, according to the Israeli Defense Forces in one of their statements. 7 other troops were wounded in the incident. Turkey's foreign minister told his U.S. counterpart, Antony Blinken, that Israel's attack on Rafah is unacceptable. In a phone call, Fidan told Blinken that it was important to achieve a ceasefire in Gaza as soon as possible. The Reuters news agency was told by 2 Egyptian sources that Egypt has rejected Israel's proposal for the 2 countries to reopen Rafah between Egypt's Sinai Peninsula and the Gaza Strip. The International Rescue Committee says that the scale of the crisis happening in Gaza now defies imagination, as in southern Gaza, Israeli forces invade Rafah and massive displacement continues. There is such desperate need for food and water. The U.S. said today that the humanitarian situation in Gaza is deteriorating and urged Israel to do more to allow for sustained access to aid in the southern and northern parts of the enclave. When I read that, I mean, it's so disgusting, but other than the south and the north, what other parts of Gaza are there? I just want to know. Stating that fuel deliveries to Gaza via the Rafah crossing have come to a complete halt. A statement released by the Arab League called for an end to the war in Gaza and the withdrawal of the Israeli Defense Forces to bring in an international force into the Gaza Strip and the West Bank until the implementation of a 2-state solution. And Mahmoud Abbas, the president of the Palestinian Authority, called on Arab countries that maintain relations with Israel to condition continued relations on a ceasefire in Gaza and to return political order. He also called to act against the United States and encourage Israel to end the war and release the Palestinian Authority's tax money. There have been a lot of conversations lately about what's going to happen the day after. The Lord willing, we get there soon. The Israeli leaders said that it's pointless to talk about the day after while Hamas is still intact. That's referring to Netanyahu. He said that to Reuters. He is saying there is not a humanitarian crisis in southern Gaza. The defense minister in Israel, Gallant, called on the Israeli government to make a decision about post-war governance in Gaza. Gallant said he would not agree to a military regime in Gaza. And there's a plan for a new Palestinian administration not linked to Hamas, but that there has not been a response to that request from Israeli cabinet forums. Gallant has said that the country's relationship with the U.S. is, quote, essential, strong, and stable, end quote. Blinken said Israel must have a clear and concrete plan for the future of Gaza. And he said in Kyiv on Wednesday that the U.S. Does not support and will not support an Israeli occupation. He said we cannot have a vacuum in Gaza that will be filled with chaos. Today, National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan met with representatives of country with citizens held hostage by Hamas. I won't go through all of them. There are many. The group called for immediate release of hostages, and Sullivan relayed Biden is continuing to discuss efforts about a ceasefire and hostage deal with Prime Minister Netanyahu, the Emir of Qatar, and the Egyptian President Sisi. There have been numerous attacks on aid trucks seeking to get aid into Gaza, including one that was set on fire. Others have been looted. Jake Sullivan said it's infuriating that people are attacking and looting convoys coming from Jordan to Gaza to deliver humanitarian aid. He said this is completely unacceptable behavior. Regarding college protests in Texas, CAIR, the Council on Islamic Relations, sues the Texas Governor Abbott for unlawful executive order on student protests, which particularly impacts pro-Palestine students protesting at universities. So that happened in the past 24 hours. And Netanyahu has said his government unanimously rejected the UN decision to promote the recognition of a Palestinian state. Escalations have continued with Lebanon, between Lebanon and order, particularly Hezbollah, and a senior Hezbollah commander, Hussein Ibrahim Mekki, was killed by an Israeli airstrike inside of Lebanon, and Lebanon's Iran-backed Hezbollah group said it launched more than 60 rockets on Israeli military positions in retaliation for the overnight strikes on their country's east. At least 35,272 Palestinians have been killed in Gaza, and those injured is at 79,000 plus. Today, we published another piece in Word and Way, and in the piece, I called on President Biden to change the course of U.S. foreign policy. American foreign policy is now at an inflection point. President Biden has one final opportunity to put the U.S. on the right side of history. Where is the young politician who in 1986 gave such an impassioned speech against the injustices of South African apartheid? Might President Biden remember those commitments to human rights and finally take decisive action to end this war? Can he at long last halt the provision of military arms to Israel and use U.S. leverage to help save the Palestinian people in Gaza? Israel's invasion of Rafah, the entire war in Gaza, must be stopped. Otherwise, not only will thousands more civilians die, but Israel's acceptance as a legitimate power integrated into the Middle East will be dealt a terrible blow. If Biden does not act boldly now, he never will. With tens of thousands of people killed and many more in danger of meeting the same fate, now is the last chance to stop the madness. With so much at stake, the American people are looking to President Biden to do his job, plain and simple. Be a bold and courageous leader. The president has the opportunity and the power to change the course of history. He must use it. Thank you for your efforts, continued in calling for a comprehensive ceasefire and working towards peace.